They say Indiana is pleasant when you drive it slowly, the way a good neighbor takes time to sip tea. But under that polite surface lie corners that will not let the past be tidy. Tonight, I'll walk you through 5 of Indiana's weirdest places, the sort of spots locals nod at and then lower their voices. These are not sensational attractions, they are small geographies of stubborn memory. If you are 50 or older, you may already know how a single house or a stretch of road can carry a family's mood for generations. Keep that patience with you, we'll need it. 1 Rose Island. Across a stretch of the Ohio River, a low island once hummed with the accidental grandeur of summer. Rose Island was a park before anyone called it vintage, a Ferris wheel, a dance pavilion, arcades, a trolley line from Charlestown. Families came on Sundays and stayed until the lanterns were cold. Then the flood of 1937 and a slow economic drift emptied the island of its crowds, and the rides rusted into skeletons that never danced again. There's a local woman, May, who remembers running there as a girl. She told me decades later how she learned to waltz on the pavilion's warped boards and how the smell of salt water from the river mixed, oddly, with cotton candy. Once, May said, we left a paper hat on a bench and thought nothing of it. The next morning, the hat was gone and a penny lay where it had been, like someone had come and settled the bill. That is the kind of story people tell about Rose Island, domestic, precise, and slightly rueful. And now you find small artifacts embedded in the soil, bottle caps, a rusted bolt, a child's token. The park is a collage of weathered concrete and tilted foundations. Locals swear that at dusk you can sometimes hear a faint music, like someone tuning an unseen organ. Scientists will tell you it's wind in the reeds. People who grew up there say it's more like memory assembling itself, a band practicing between worlds. Rose Island's oddness is gentle. It is the feeling of a world paused mid-song, waiting politely for the next measure. The place asks nothing of you but a little silence and the patience to let the past fold around you like a familiar shawl. 2 Devil's Backbone. If Rose Island is a paused song, Devil's Backbone is an older, more stoic arrangement, a narrow limestone ridge rising above the Ohio, a spine of rock where the land seems to strain toward the sky. It is a place people have watched from for centuries. Indigenous travelers, early settlers, geologists with clipboards. The name itself feels like an instruction to pay attention. There's a story of a young couple who used to meet on the Backbone after church, their hands tucked into each other's pockets while the river turned like a silver belt below. In winter, when the fog sits low, people say the ridge hums. Not with wind, but with small voices, mid-range and human. A retired ranger told me that hikers sometimes come back from the Backbone shaken, not because the trail is hard, but because of a sudden sense of presence, the feeling of being overheard by a history not yet finished. Anthropologists note that places where many paths cross tend to accumulate stories. Devil's Backbone is one of them. Survivors of storms tell of cairns built and rebuilt, rock-laid tolls for safe passage. People who follow those cairns know to add a pebble or a small coin. The ritual is modest, but it keeps something tethered, a human hand on a long, indifferent geology. The ridge does not spook you. It simply remembers how many feet have stood there, and it minds the count. 3. Hell's Gate. Every small town has a place where daring and superstition meet. In the Wabash Valley, there is a stretch of road known as Hell's Gate, a low tunnel where rumors piled up like sediment. Teenagers grew up racing into its throat, counting off superstitions. If you drove through all 7 gates, they said, something would hitch itself to your shadow. Years ago, the rite was brash, and the dares were told with laughter and cigarettes. But rites calcify. Parents tell the story now in the tone of a confession. Their children came back breathless, hair askew, eyes too quiet. An old station master recalled a freight derailment there in the 1940s, and with it, an electrical hum that never left the beams. People claim the hum answers to movement, that the tunnel keeps a ledger of those who have dared it, and will remind you softly if you forget your manners. The interesting thing about Hell's Gate is how ordinary most of the evidence is. A pair of footprints in the mud that no one can match, a dent on a railing placed with care. If you drive it by day, it is just a cut in the earth. a place for trains and trucks. But by night, the tunnel collects a different kind of traffic: stories. These stories are not trying to frighten you. They are rites of passage reframed as warnings, a community's way of saying, be careful how you claim the dark. 4. Abandoned Speedway amusement ruins. Indiana loves its summer rituals: fairs, stock car races, the smell of hot oil and fried dough. There are speedways and water parks that once packed Sundays with noise. Over time, some of those places fell out of use and returned to their plants. The grandstands collapsed into seating for birds. The midway became a poem. One local man, Hank, who used to work the scoreboard at a county speedway, told me how the final race had ended with a summer lightning storm and how management never reopened afterward. He said the scoreboard froze on the last lap, the numbers a stubborn relic. People come back and find the same sequence of objects: a rusted program wedged into a seat, a child's sneaker on a stair, a plastic ticket with a date. Those tokens are fragments of attestation, small proofs that a life once unfolded there. These ruined parks don't roar at night. They hold a memory like a person holds a breath. If you stand in the ticket booth and shut your eyes, some claim you can almost hear applause like a receding tide. Scholars who study memory and place call this residual sound, and they are as fascinated as anyone. But for locals it is simpler. Summers left their mark and the mark remains. The amusement ruins teach us how the economy pauses and how a communal ritual can become an object lesson in absence. 5. Mound State Park. Finally, Mound State Park offers a different register of mystery. These earthworks are not recent curiosities. They are the handiwork of indigenous builders centuries old. The mounds themselves speak a language of time, a deliberate shaping of earth that carries ceremony and observation embedded into landscape. Local historians and the elders of several nations have told the same thing. The mounds are patient teachers. Walk the terraces and stand in the bowl where people once gathered, and you will understand how human intention can shape silence. Many visitors say they feel steadier there, as if the heartbeat you thought was your own is matched by something underfoot. There are also harder stories of displacement and of places taken in ways that plantation and city records later record as progress. Those are not romantic tales. They are part of a longer, difficult memory. The mounds are a ledger of presence. They say clearly who was here first, and they insist that we remember what followed. The weirdness here is not spooky, it's moral. It asks us to feel the weight of our history, to listen and to answer. Across these 5 sites, a pattern repeats. The stories survive because people keep telling them, not on stages or screens, but in that low domestic voice, over kitchen tables and church basements. They are not theatrical haunts. They are echoes of real lives. They teach us to walk softly, to listen more than we look. They remind us how grief, joy, and everyday routines can settle into a landscape until the place itself begins to answer back. And if one of these places ever calls to you, if you feel that quiet urge to visit a river island at dusk, or to stand where an old scoreboard froze mid-race, remember 3 things. Be small in your curiosity. Bring respect instead of hunger for spectacle. And leave something modest behind, a penny, a folded note, a simple greeting, because these places don't reward loudness. They reward attention, the kind that's gentle, like tending a neighbor's garden while they're away.